There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Seniors Network. We appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We have Nick with us. Nick, I am going to let you take it away and talk about what we are doing here tonight and how you can help us in this video marketing segment, because I know that I was just talking about accountability and it's hard to get that stuff out and keep accountable for getting it out. So why don't you help us?
Happy to do so. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you, Heather, for the invitation. Definitely appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share some slides here because I do have some good stuff to go over with you today. But yeah, I'm gonna be giving you all kinds of good advice. I know video can be quite a bit overwhelming, a little bit intimidating, but I'm gonna try to make it as easy as possible for you. So I am happy to take questions as we go. Obviously I'll keep an eye on the chat, try to answer them there, or if you do want to unmute yourself, but I will try to move just a little bit quicker so we can get a little bit of time at the end for Q&A as well. I think maybe as I started, it's helpful to know a little bit about me, sort of who I am, why it might be worth listening to what I have to say. We'll see if my intro convinces you or not. So I'm Nick Niehaus. I'm the co-founder of Business Video School. I'm also the head trainer. So I do this day in and day out. This is my full-time job. And my background is I've been working in marketing since basically freshman year of college. I did an internship all 4 years of college where I essentially ran a small painting company and then also taught other people how to run their own small painting business. And then I've been self-employed pretty much every month since then, except for a few months at Sears of everything. So that's my background. I've been working with agents, though, specifically for about 7 years. So about the past 7 years doing marketing with agents. Most of that time has been video. Probably about 5.5 to 6 years of that time was really 100% dedicated to video. I started making videos, about that same moment, right? About 6 years ago at this point. I probably made a couple thousand at this point in time, been on camera for many thousands of hours worth of time. And so I have a lot of experience doing this as well as teaching it to agents. In our school, we specialize in teaching real estate agents how to use video, right? So that's really our niche as well. So getting into this today, what I was going to do is talk to you a little bit about, first of all, why video works, right? So really starting to understand why is this something? I mean, you're all probably starting to notice video has really started to dominate our communication, especially because of the pandemic. It sort of accelerated even a lot of those trends. And so I want you to understand first sort of why that is, right? What are some of the neuroscience that leads to this being a preferred form of communication? And then I'm going to give you 4 strategies, right? So I'm going to walk you through 4 different things you probably should be doing with video, the order in which you should implement them, how long to take with each of them, some tips and tricks. So lots and lots of good stuff here today. So let's go ahead and dive in, right? So the first thing I want to talk about as we get this ball rolling here is kind of to jump way back for a second in human history and human evolution, right? So when we talk about video, most people think about video as a marketing tool, right? You think of TikTok, you think of YouTube, you think of these people doing these fancy listing videos and all that kind of stuff, right? Totally valid by all means. Highly recommend that you use video for marketing purposes. But in a lot of ways, video is a much, much broader form of communication, right? And this is why. So if we go back in human history, right, to the point where we first started talking to each other, right? It's many, many, many thousands of years ago. This was basically the moment in time where we became humans in some ways, right? Because this ability to talk and to communicate the ideas that I have in my head and hopefully get them over into your brain, that ability to have those kinds of conversations is pretty unique to human beings, right? And that's what allowed us to start organizing as civilizations, to build these great buildings and these cultures and religions and all the stuff that we've done throughout human history, right? Well, the reason I bring that up when we talk about video is that every other form of human communication that we've invented since that point in time has been an attempt to replicate or simulate a face-to-face conversation, right? Because for many, many, many thousands of years, that was the only way we communicated. If I couldn't talk to you or maybe yell at you across the field, you were not going to communicate with me, right? I guess we had smoke signals at some point, things like that, right? But otherwise, it's just face-to-face. So when you are face-to-face, this is the thing you have to understand about this. you are getting what I would call full spectrum communication, right? You're engaging really maybe all five of your senses, right? You can certainly see the person. You can watch their facial expressions. You can watch their body language, right? That communicates quite a bit, even without the words they're saying. So you can see them, you can hear them, right? So you can hear the words that they're speaking. Obviously, the specific words they're saying are really important, but you can also hear their tone of voice, their vocal inflection, which words they choose to emphasize, right? All of that plays a really important role here. Now, as we go further, you can also engage the other three senses, right? So you can touch the person, you can shake their hand, give them a hug. That's usually a good thing, right? And then you can technically smell them. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, right? Not necessary in most cases. And you could taste them, but you're probably not tasting them, right? So technically, when you meet face to face, you can engage all five senses. But the two that are most important is you can hear the person and you can see them at the same time, right? Now, everything else we've invented since then has tried to simulate that, and some are better than others, right? So when we share the written word, when we write something down and mail it to someone, or when we email it to someone, or we text it to someone, that is a lot better than nothing, right? Because we can definitely communicate a lot of the essentials of what we're trying to translate. But we cannot very effectively communicate things like emotion, right? So it's very easy to miscommunicate certain aspects because they cannot see or hear you, right? Now, that's why we tend to lean on the phone when we have something more significant, right? When we have to have a hard conversation, you're either going to get in person or you're going to call that person, right? Because that now I can hear your voice. I can hear your tone of voice. I can hear the empathy if you're explaining to me why my fifth offer on the fifth house I'm trying to buy also didn't get accepted, right? I mean, there's obviously some situations where it's very beneficial to be on the phone. Well, where this brings us, right, at the end of this trajectory, and we've had a lot of new forms of communication emerge in the past even just few decades here, right? But the most recent one is video. And when I say video is a form of communication, it is everywhere, right? This is an example of video as a form of communication, video messaging, video marketing. Anytime that you're in front of a camera and talking to it is video, right? And the thing that happens with video that does not happen with any other forms of communication except for a face-to-face conversation is that I can see you and I can hear you at the same time, right? Why is that so important? Well, here's the thing. Our brain does not understand the difference between a video and a face-to-face conversation, all right? Now, you might say, well, I know I'm not having a face-to-face conversation with you right now, and that's true, right? The conscious part of your brain, which is a very small part of your brain, does know the difference, right? But the rest doesn't, and this is why video is so powerful. There's this part of your brain, it's called the fusiform gyrus, and what it does is it recognizes objects, right? Part of it, this little subdivision called the fusiform face area, because I guess they didn't have a good enough science term for it, right? But this face area part of the gyrus actually only recognizes human faces. It's even more specialized, right? So this is part of your brain that only ever turns on when there's a face in front of you, right? So it doesn't turn on when we listen to a voicemail. It doesn't turn on when we read an email or text. It only turns on when we see your face, right? Well, the reason this exists is because it exists to tell you if you can trust someone or not, right? It's there to remind you, hey, do I know this person, right? In fact, this is such a powerful effect that it has a name. It's called the familiarity principle or the mere exposure effect. Actually, it's two names, right? And so what that basically means is that it's been proven that the more we are exposed to a person, the more times we see that person, either in person or through things like video and also potentially photos, the more we start to automatically know, like, and trust them, right? We can't help it. And if you're going to be honest with yourself for just a minute, you can probably see where this happens in your day-to-day life. If you think back about the people that you ended up becoming friends with throughout your life, they probably tended to be people you ran into fairly frequently, right? The people you lived with on your freshman dorm floor, the people you work with, the people you go to church with, right? You're probably not friends with many people that were complete random strangers, just happened to randomly become friends with them, right? It's because of this. It's because the people we spend our time around, what happens is our brain tells us, hey, I keep seeing this person. They must be part of my tribe, right? So again, this is an instinctive thing. This is a byproduct of us living in these small communities, many thousands of years ago, is we had to know, hey, do I see this person every day or do I not see them every day, right? Should I reach out to shake their hand or should I get my sword ready to fight them off because I don't know who they are, right? So this part of our brain, not as important today as it used to be, right? Because now, we live in these large societies, we have laws, right? We don't have to necessarily recognize someone to feel like figure out if they're a threat or not, right? But it's still there. These parts of our brain they haven't gone anywhere. We didn't evolve to eliminate these. And so we have to keep them in mind, right? We have to take them into account. So what does that mean? Well, let me give you an example of where this really comes into play, right? And this is ultimately, if you can understand and sort of embrace some of these facts here, you're going to become very powerful, especially when it comes to video. So this is Robin Williams, right? I mean, this is a person, he's been dead for several years now, sort of a sad story. So I don't want it to trigger anybody, but what I do want to talk about here is my experience when Robin Williams passed away, right? And this is something that I thought of at the time and I didn't really understand. So when I heard about Robin Williams dying, I think it was at an event and I was reading a news article, during a break or something like that. I remember kind of sitting down and being like, sort of shook a little bit. I was like, man, Robin Williams is dead. I hadn't seen any of his movies recently. I hadn't probably thought about him in a couple months, but it hurt a little bit. I was actually sad. I had a grief response, right? And I remember thinking like, why do I feel sad? I don't know Robin Williams. He's not my friend. He's not my family. In fact, I've literally never met him in my entire life. He had no idea who I was. Why did I care? Right. And so what I eventually realized and what I'm starting to realize in business is that I cared because I had a real relationship with him, right? Because a bunch of my brain, every time I watched Mrs. Doubtfire, every time I watched Jumanji, every time I went over to my grandparents and watched these movies and saw him on the screen, watched Aladdin, right? Now that one's more voice than visual, but every time I did that, I was building this parasocial relationship with Robin Williams, right? My brain kept telling me, hey, this guy is really funny. It's fun to hang out with him. He makes you laugh. We're going to look forward to the next time we see him. And that all is real, right? In fact, this may be becoming a problem in our society. At this point, we have a lot of young people that have so many parasocial relationships that they're having trouble forming real relationships, right? They have hundreds or thousands of people on the internet that their brain thinks are their friends that they're not actually friends with, right? That could be an issue. But from a business perspective, we can probably see where this is going, right? If we can engage this effect, we can get in front of people and build relationships with them without having to be in person. All right. And so where we're starting to see this is you're starting to see agents. So this is Ryan Serhant, right? One of the more famous agents out there. And he used video to get famous, right? To become well-known by millions of people. He used television. Now he uses things like Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, right? But the reason I bring him up is that he was sort of the beginning of a very fast growing trend. And that is agents who are realizing that if I start getting on camera, if I start making video where I'm on the screen, people are going to be able to get to know me a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, and I'm going to grow my business very quickly, right? So here's what I want you to think. I don't want you to think, oh, I need to be like Ryan Serhant, all right? You do not need to do that. And in fact, what you run into a lot is you see a lot of agents looking at this that way, and that's a problem, right? So what a lot of agents are doing right now is they're seeing someone like Ryan, somebody like a Ken Pozak, Brad McCallum, these agents that are doing millions and millions of dollars worth of business off of their YouTube channels. And we say to ourselves, that looks smart, right? That looks like the next thing to do. I need to start paying attention to this. And we tell ourselves, I need to do what that person is currently doing because it's working, right? That's not a good way to think about learning an entire new set of skills because that's what video is. Video is like learning a new language, right? It is a lot of things to figure out. You're going to have to practice a lot and you're not going to be good at it on day one. So when we look at somebody who's been doing this for years and we tell ourselves we have to do what they're doing, we're almost guaranteeing we're going to fail, right? The NHL playoffs is going on right now, right? So if I had never played a game of hockey in my life and I sat down and watched, the Blues Avalanche series, and I said, oh, that looks like fun. I'm going to go out there tomorrow and play in that game. And somehow they let me, right? I would get destroyed. Like literally, I'd probably break bones in my body because these guys are so physically fit and so big and so good at what they do that I would just get run over, right? I can't even skate well enough to play a normal hockey game. It would be insane. No one would do that, right? In fact, if we were going to look at that NHL game and go, hey, I want to learn how to play hockey, the first thing I would do is go to a rink and try to skate a little bit, right? That's not even playing hockey. That is just skating. That's a precursor to playing hockey, right? That's the way we learn. Unfortunately, as business people, we tend to sort of assume we have magic powers and try to skip way ahead, right? So here's the good news as we sort of transition here and we start to get into what to do, you're actually going to realize there are a lot of much simpler things that you could be doing with video to get started that are going to help you get used to the basic fundamentals first and then build on those skills over time, right? And that's the key to success here is we have to do things in the way that our brains actually work, right? We got to give them one piece at a time and build on top of those skills until we eventually get to the levels that these other people are at, right? If they've been doing it for 4 years, I can probably get to where they are today in 2 years instead of 4, but it's still going to take me 2 years, right? I'm not going to dive right into what they're doing today. So that's what I'm going to show you with the rest of the presentation is how do you go about this in a way that is easy, right? How do you keep things simple and continue to keep them simple until all of a sudden you're running a YouTube channel with tens of thousands of subscribers and it never felt overwhelming or intimidating, right? That's what we want to figure out how to do. So let's take a look at this, right? We got 4 different strategies. I'm going to go through all of them with you here today. And if you have any questions, obviously as we go, throw them in there, but I'm also happy to answer them at the end, right? So let's start with number 1. Number 1, first strategy you should ever implement with video is one-to-one video messages, right? It's not TikTok. It's not YouTube. In fact, it has nothing to do with social media whatsoever, other than maybe sending the messages through the social media chat. It is not public facing. And that eliminates a lot of the uncomfortable aspect, right? That eliminates a lot of the pressure. And in fact, it's probably a little bit more user-friendly to the types of customers you're currently working with, because for them, they get a text. It has a little video preview in it. They click on it. Now they're watching a video from you, right? That's something that's relatively easy to do even for the senior crowd, right? So it's very user-friendly. It's very impactful, and it's so freaking easy. But here's the crazy part about this. I gave you an example earlier about hockey and skating first, right? Well, if you're going out there and you're skating, you're not scoring any goals in a hockey game, right? There's no ROI on that skating session. With video messages, there is. It's sort of mind-blowing. So the very first time you sit down and send a video message, there is a real chance you'll get business as a result of it, right? That's what I love about this is you can start on such a simple step, but you can also get results, right? So what do you do here? What does this look like? How do I get started sending video messages, right? First and foremost, you do not worry about quality. You do not have to worry about, did I say everything perfectly? Is my lighting perfect? Is my audio completely clean, right? In fact, if these are too fancy, it's going to come across as you trying too hard, right? They should feel like a face-to-face conversation. If I'm talking to you and we're just chit-chatting and I stumble over a couple words, I don't apologize profusely and act like it's super embarrassing. I just keep talking and nobody cares, right? It's the same thing here. We're not going to worry about this. It's not a performance. All right. So you got to tell yourself that because you're going to want to make it a performance the first couple of times you do it. And another way you can make this easier for yourself is start with video messages that have nothing to do with business. They do not need to be promotional. And just a quick word of warning here, because I know I'm always going to catch somebody out there that was thinking about doing this. When you first start out, if you're not sending promotional videos, don't remind people that you're a real estate agent. All right. You don't need to add that in there. It's going to make the message come across as promotional when it wasn't meant to be that. Right. So here's what you're going to do. When you first get started, and actually, you might as well just sort of follow along at home real quick because I can show you exactly how to do this. So I want to show you how easy this is. And I know we're talking to a group here that specializes in working with seniors. I know not every senior is on social media, although a lot of them are on Facebook at this point. I know my grandma's on Facebook, right? So let's take a look at Facebook for just a second because it will work in a lot of cases, right? Here's what we're going to do. I want you to open up the Facebook app on your phone, right? So go ahead and find that on your phone. I want to make sure that you're on the home screen. And I apologize, I'm not set up to share my phone screen right now. Otherwise I would. But you're going to be looking at the Facebook app. This is pretty straightforward, so you shouldn't necessarily need an example, right? So what you're looking for, though, is the notification icon in the top right-hand corner. You're probably familiar with it. It looks like a little bell. We're going to click on that. And then now you should see all the notifications that you get throughout the day, right? This person commented on this post, blah, 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 right? On that screen should say notifications at the top. Right next to where it says notifications on the right-hand side is a what looks like a little magnifying glass, right? That's the search button. So we're going to click on the search, and then we just search for the word birthdays, all right? Very, very simple. So we're searching for birthdays here. It's going to pop up. It's going to say, okay, it says birthdays and then see upcoming birthdays, right? When you search for this. And if you click on that, you now have a list of everyone who has a birthday today, right? So a lot of you have probably done this much before. And then you can go through and you start writing on their timelines and saying happy birthday. That's great, right? We're going to do this a little differently though. And Facebook even sets this up really nicely for you. So next to each person's name, on the right-hand side, you'll see the messenger icon. Looks like a little chat bubble. It's blue and it has little lightning bolts inside of it, right? If you click on that little messenger icon, it will open up a conversation with that person, right? So now you're in your Facebook Messenger chat. There's one last step, and then we're going to record our video. Now, keep in mind, you have to hit the send button before it sends. So you can do all this without actually sending anything. So just don't hit the send button, all right? Because I don't want you to accidentally send somebody a message. But what you do once you're here is you click in the bottom left-hand corner is a little icon that looks like a camera, right? That's just the camera functionality in the Facebook Messenger app. We're going to click on that. And now you should see yourself on the screen, or you should see what's in front of you, right? And if you see what's in front of you, switch the camera to seeing yourself. It's the little button in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like a camera with two arrows and a circle there, right? So make sure you can see yourself on screen. And then this is it. All you got to do to record your video message is hold down the white button. Now, don't push it and let go. Hold it down, say your piece, and then let it go. Let me show you. Let me give you a quick example, right? So I'd hold my phone up, kind of get myself in the top half of the screen, hold the button down. Hey there, Pete. I saw it was your birthday. I hope you are having an absolute blast today. If you're working, which I know you're a hard worker, so you probably are, make sure you take some time off tonight. Enjoy it with the family. Happy birthday. I'll talk to you later. Hey there, Pete. All right, now it's playing again on my phone. And then I hit send. All right, now I'm not sending it because this is just for demo purposes. But then I would just hit send, and then I click back a couple times. I go back to my list of birthdays, and I go on to the next one. All right. That is it. That is how easy this is. Now, I didn't say anything about make sure you got the right lighting, make sure you hold your phone a certain way. I did say put yourself in the top half of the frame. Your head should be in the top half, right? So it's framed correctly. Otherwise, just do it, right? I didn't do any multiple takes. I didn't think too hard about what I said, right? If I go back and rewatch that, I may have wanted to say things a little different. Doesn't matter. What matters is I'm wishing this person a happy birthday through video. So now you know how to do that, right? I mean, that was it. That's literally that easy. And I know you work with seniors, so they're not every single one going to be on Facebook. But honestly, if you were telling me you worked with first-time home buyers, you're probably better on Facebook with seniors than first-time buyers at this point, because a lot of them aren't on Facebook anymore, right? So in fact, a lot of your target market might be there and might be ready for this kind of interaction, right? So you start with birthday messages. You say happy birthday to as many people as you can. It's up to you how many you want to do. You don't have to say happy birthday to everyone, but think about what happens for them, right? They watch this message and then they're going to remember it for weeks, if not months, if not even in some cases, years. It is remarkable the way this impacts people. In fact, I have had people bring up the fact that I sent them a happy birthday video 6 months, 12 months, sometimes even more than a year later. All right. This stuff resonates. We had a student the other day picked up a $3.2 million listing because she sent somebody a happy birthday like a month before that. Right. But then when it came time to move, she happened for some reason to pop into that person's head, right? So it's not promotional. It's just a good thing to do, right? It's a great way to build relationships. So once you've done the happy birthday videos, here's what I'm going to suggest. Do happy birthday video messages until you are comfortable sending video messages, right? You do not need to do anything else. And I can almost guarantee you that you will see a business impact. You're going to have more conversations with more people. People you haven't talked to in years are going to respond. It's going to start a conversation that ends up leading to business. You don't even really know where this is going to impact you, right? But you're going to be top of mind with dozens at first and then eventually hundreds of additional people that you're not currently top of mind with, right? And this is a perfect excuse to reach out to them. You can expand on this too, right? So if you want to go into saying congratulations on things like a new job, an anniversary, new baby, in your case, maybe new grandkid, right? Those are great opportunities to reach out, right? Same sort of rules. Do not promote yourself and just be friendly and supportive, right? Now, once you've done those for a while and you don't need to do anything else, right? I'm not telling you, oh, send 10 happy birthday videos so you can get ready to start dancing on TikTok. That's not the idea, right? The idea is that this should continue indefinitely. This should become a new habit for you, right? In fact, a lot of you, if you get comfortable and confident and consistent with video messages, you don't even need to use other forms of video. This is going to have so much of an impact on what you're doing that you may hold off on doing anything else with video for months, if not years to come, and just not need it, right? Because here's the thing, the first step you have to take is to make sure somebody else can't steal all your customers with video, right? So if you're communicating through video messages with your customer base, you've got that covered, right? And in fact, it's going to increase your business. You're going to get more referrals, more repeat business, et cetera, right? Then if eventually you want to start carving out somebody else's market a little bit and start to grow, well, in that case, then you can take those next steps and start putting video out in front of total strangers, right? So I'm not going to go into too much more detail here. I think we're about ready to move on. I do want to give you one other tip in terms of, well, first of all, you can use this in any other situation where you are communicating, right? So the real rule here is to start thinking, should this be a video, right? So every time you go to send an email, a text, make a phone call, ask yourself, would this be better as a video message, right? And the last thing I'll mention here, I showed you how to do this or kind of walked you through it for Facebook Messenger. There is also a lot of folks are going to ask, hey, how do I send a video through text or email, right? You can do it directly, but you will run into some issues. Quality control, deliverability, those things aren't always perfect when it comes to video. So I do recommend using a third-party tool like this one here. It's called Vidyard. There's a free version. I know agents always like free, right? So that you get a free version to get started, and you can upgrade and pay for it if you like it and you want to access some additional features. But what it'll do is it's also going to take your video and create a preview GIF, right? Which it does, it takes the first 3 seconds and it makes it into this preview that plays over and over again without any sound. So when they get that text or that email, they see you. And what I recommend is do what I'm doing on the screen there, right? Hold up their name on a whiteboard, wave, smile, be as appealing as possible. They're a lot more likely to click on it then, right? Because they can see it's a message just for them. So lots of different things you can do here, but that's a good place to kind of get started with it. So let me check the chat real quick, just make sure I'm not missing any. Please show us that again, how to send happy birthday video. So if we have time at the end, I'll walk you through how to send the happy birthday videos. Again, I know it's a few steps, but unfortunately, because I can't share the screen, it's a little bit trickier to do, but we'll see if we have time at the end. I want to make sure we have enough time to get through all the strategies. So 2 case studies real quick here, just if you aren't already convinced, all right? Carla. So Carla came up with this little script. So she basically said, just to give you a quick recap of it, she held up a package of toilet paper and she said, hey, remember the toilet paper shortage of 2020? And then she held up a little model home and said, well, right now we have a shortage of homes that's actually pretty similar. A lot of people are having trouble finding a home. This was about 8 months ago or so. And so what she did is she said, look, if you are thinking about selling your house, I want to talk because I have these buyers and you're going to be their hero if you can sell them your home, right? Because they're really getting desperate at this point. Plus, you're going to maximize the amount of money you can bring in from your sale, right? So she's appealing to a couple of the very smart message, and I'm not going to get into the details of why that's so smart, but here's what she did. She took this video, she attached it to 75 text messages using one of these tools, and she sent it out. She customized the text message, but not the video. The video was the same for everyone, all right? Took her 2 hours to customize those messages and send the video. The results that she got, and remember, these are all people she knew or leads that she'd gotten, maybe months or years earlier. She got 7 of them immediately within 24 hours responding and saying, I want to talk to you about selling my house. 7 listing appointments. Now she completed 6. One of them did cancel. They changed their mind. Of those 6, 2 listed right away. She's going to make about $20,000, or I think did make $20,000 off of those transactions, right? The other 4 were nurtures. They were not listings. They're just not quite ready to move today, right? So now she got 4 more people to follow up with over the next 6 to 12 months and also list their home. In addition to that, she had like 30 of those 75 people respond and say, hey, I'm not currently thinking about moving, but let me ask around for you. Let me talk to my family and friends. Let me see if anybody else is thinking. I'm going to forward my video or your video to them, right? I have not heard of any email newsletter, any phone call outreach, or any other kind of marketing that got that positive of a response, right? And this was promotional. This was not her saying happy birthday. This was her saying, hey, do you want to sell your house, right? That is how powerful this stuff can be. Now, a personal example, sort of a similar, not completely different, but sort of, another case where you can use video messaging. Vanessa and I got engaged a little bit over a year ago. We're getting married here in a couple months. And we actually put together an engagement video. So a little video about, the story of how we did it. And then she showed the ring and, yada, yada. And what we did is we sent that out to all of our family and friends at the same time. So on the one hand, they got to feel like they were there, right? They got to see our excitement and share in that moment. Another thing from a more selfish perspective is it meant I didn't have to decide what order I was going to call all my relatives in to let them know I had gotten engaged, because I knew that was going to stir something up, because we'd already gotten comments about, you better call me before you call her and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? You're all getting the same video at the same time. Nobody can get offended that way, right? And again, because it's so new and so exciting, nobody even thought about it that way. They were just excited to see a video and be a part of what we did, right? So there's so many places you can use this. It doesn't have to be business only, right? Now, in terms of the benefits, we've already talked through a few of these, but I think really the biggest thing here is you're going to get a ton of practice. Here's the thing, right? I know some of you have probably been sitting on your hands for years waiting to get started making video, telling yourself you needed to do this other thing or figure out your camera or lose 10 pounds or whatever it was, right? This within a few weeks is going to get you more experience than some people get in entire years, because you're going to make a whole bunch of videos in a very short amount of time, right? No matter what you're doing, you got to get the reps. If you go work out for the first time, you're not going to start with the heavy, complicated workouts and weights. You're going to start with the easy stuff and do a lot of reps until you get the form down. This is the same thing. Think of it as building your form, right? Getting used to going through the processes, and it'll make everything else that comes later that much easier. And then the benefit directly is also incredible. The amount of impact you can have with video messages really cannot be measured against anything else, right? It completely changes the way people talk to you, the way people see you, the respect that they have for you. It's a very, very impactful thing to do, all right? Okay, so as we go here, I'm just going to do a couple quick tips and tricks. I'm just making sure. So this is getting recorded. Good. So just a couple quick tips for you. First is lighting. Here's all you got to think about. It's literally the only thing you have to think about when it comes to light, right? Because I told you, you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure you're facing the source of light. That's it. That's all you got to worry about, okay? What that means is that if you're in a room with overhead lighting, you may want to turn it off, or you may want to counteract it a little bit, right? Maybe even want to record your messages just looking slightly up, because with lighting directly overhead, I'll tell you right now, most of the people I've spoken to that are like, I can't stand how I look in video. When we direct the light toward them instead of from above, they change their mind pretty substantially. Now, they might not be in love with how they look, but they usually go, oh, well, yeah, that's a lot better. I don't look, twice as old as I actually am all of a sudden, right? So that's the thing that you're getting wrong if you're having that problem. So here's all you got to do. Just face a window, just turn towards the window, right? You go to record your video message. You're probably doing it with your phone. Face a window, you're good to go, right? That's really it, right? The other thing to think about here is going to be a little bit of audio, right? So how do I make sure that the audio that person is hearing is clear, right? Here's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one is don't be too far away from your phone. Now, most of these as a video message are going to be shot like this. No problem whatsoever. They can clearly hear you there, right? But if you're going to set your phone up on a tripod, something like that, just make sure you don't get more than about 5 feet away from it, right? That'll make sure your voice is nice and clear. The other thing I see people do that can cause a problem here is they'll record video in a room full of hard surfaces, right? So you have to think about when you talk, it creates sound waves. Those sound waves, they go out, and if they hit a hard surface, they bounce back, right? It's why when you're in a canyon, you hear your voice echo over and over again, right? Because it's echoing off the hard walls. Well, if you're in a room full of pillows, your voice doesn't echo, right? When you think about a recording booth, why does a recording booth have soundproofing on all the walls, right? It's got foam basically everywhere around you. It's so your voice doesn't bounce off the walls, right? So if you're, this happens in particular in vacant homes. So if you're ever in a vacant home with a hardwood floor, sounds like a cathedral because your voice echoes so much, that's very bad for video. So just remember, always try to be in a room with some carpeting, heavy drapes, a plush couch, something like that's gonna absorb that echo effect. and it's going to make it a little bit easier for your recipient to hear you. And if you are talking to seniors, this is a bigger deal, right? You want to make sure that you're, especially when it comes to the audio, that it's as clear and sort of pristine as possible, so that they can understand you clearly, right? But again, as long as you're not too far from your phone, you're in a room with some soft surfaces, you should definitely be okay, right? Let's see, I'm just going to check the chat. So YouTube versus TikTok, let's come back to that at the end. When you record video text messages, you remember horizontal or vertical. If it's a text message, always vertical, right? The main thing to think about is how is the person going to receive the video? If it's a text, they're going to be on their phone. They're going to be holding their phone like this. Make it vertical, right? It's going to pop up just the right way on their screen. TikTok's too much, too many short-term gratification videos. Not sure what this is doing for our brains. Oh, that's fair, right? And that's what I said. There are two sides to this, right? So in the same way that this is useful for your business, it may be doing some things to us and to our children and to our society that maybe aren't so good, right? I mean, like anything, any powerful tool will get used in both ways, right? So that is something to keep in mind, but you might as well contribute to the positive side because this is certainly not going away, right? So providing value, educating, making people smile, that's what we want to focus on, okay? Strategy number 2, right? We got 3 more of these to get through here. So strategy number 2 is still not TikTok. It's still not YouTube. It's still not social media. In fact, it's going to take us a while to get there, right? So at this point, I'm consistently sending video messages. And at this point, I would not move on to strategy number 2. And when I say move on, I don't mean replace strategy number 1. I mean add it to strategy number 1, right? We're going to do both at this point. So that's why I would not move on to strategy number 2 until you're feeling a little bit of an urge to do so, right? Here's what I mean by that. You should be so consistently doing video messages before you try to implement strategy number 2 that you're feeling like, man, I need a new challenge. Video messaging has become such a regular part of my day that now I want a new video thing to work on, right? That's how we want to approach this stuff. Give it time. You don't need to be in a rush, because if you're sending video messages to the few dozen or few hundred people you're closest to, you're already going to be getting a major benefit, right? Now, what do you do when you get to this stage, strategy number 2? Well, strategy number 2 is to basically increase the efficiency of how you run your business by in some way replacing yourself with video. Now, I know that can sound a little bit like, oh, so that's not good customer service, but it's actually even better customer service. Let me give you an example, right? If I record all my frequently asked questions as videos and I give my best possible answer, anytime I get that question, I can always give my best possible answer from now on, right? They can watch it whenever they have that question again. If they misunderstood something or forgot it, they can go back and rewatch it. They can share it with their family and friends, increasing my referrals, right? There's all kinds of benefits here. If I get a new customer and I have all my FAQ videos pre-recorded, the first thing they get is that series of videos. Hey, we get a lot of these questions from our new customers. So I told you what, I went down and actually recorded a video on each one. If you have any of these questions, go ahead and watch the videos now. Now, when you meet with them, they're better informed, right? You don't have clients that have all these myths and misunderstandings and misconceptions when they come into work with you. They are ready. And if they've watched any of those videos, now they feel like they know you a little bit, right? They're excited to work with you. That's a big, big difference here. And that stuff can be very, very powerful. And again, is the kind of thing people tell their family and friends about, right? When we're in a market like this and the houses are selling so quickly and in some cases so easily, I mean, that's how people see it. I'm not saying it is, right? But that's how some people see it. We want to give them other things to talk about. We don't want them telling, their children, well, our agent was great, but I don't really know what they did. The house sold itself, right? We want them saying, oh my gosh, they sent me all these videos before I even asked them any questions. They are just blowing my mind in terms of the way they're taking care of this, right? That's the conversation we want people having. And this is one of the things that helps facilitate that. So in terms of doing it, I do want you to continue to keep things simple, but this is the stage where I would tell you, you can start to get a little bit more polished, right? Now, you don't necessarily need a professional videographer to shoot these. You can shoot them with just a webcam. I do recommend you script them, right? So if you're going to do something like a frequently asked question, it's probably smart to have at least an outline of what you're going to say. If you do want to go fully scripted, you can use a tool called Big View, BIGVU, one of the top teleprompter apps out there that we highly recommend. And that's going to allow you to have a script in front of you and just read it straight back into your phone. It's very simple to use. I do recommend practice a few times before you hit the record button, just so you're not entirely reading word for word, right? You want to be somewhat familiar so it doesn't sound as scripted. Now on the other side, which is the editing side, right? This is where adding a little music, couple graphics, maybe some B-roll. If you're talking about let's say you're explaining how a real estate contract works, or maybe just a section of a real estate contract, right? Maybe you want to show the contract, maybe you want to have some screen sharing going on, right? So there is some it is useful to do some editing. It's not required. So you can certainly have a bunch of FAQs that do not have any additional polish. But here's the thing I want to make sure I emphasize to you. If you think the idea of being a freelance videographer or a part-time videographer sounds like a fun hobby, then you should go for it. Learn to edit your own videos, whole 9 yards. Go dive in, right? As long as you're going to enjoy it to some degree. If it sounds like a chore, pay someone else to do it, all right? And here's why. Number one, it's not that expensive. And number two, and much more important, is that if you do not pay someone to do this and you're not likely to do it yourself, it's never going to happen, right? I've seen people do this. They record their videos and then 6 months later, they're still on their computer. Oh, I'm going to learn how to edit it. Or, I got to the first one, I got it done, but I couldn't get myself to start on the next one. Just hire somebody and get them to take care of it, right? This is an area where we can outsource this work unless you think it's fun. If it's fun, go for it, right? Okay, so getting to the benefits of strategy number 2. Now, keeping in mind, we are still sending our video messages consistently, right? This is going to save us time. And that's the biggest thing, is that once you have these videos created, it is going to literally make your business more efficient. You are going to be putting less time into all the conversations you're having. You're having better conversations with people, right? That's going to open you up to implement the next 2 strategies, right? We often think about video from a business growth perspective, very powerful tool in that regard, but it can also help us in a lot of other areas. And one of those areas is it can reduce the amount of time it takes to get things done. All right. So that's the big benefit here. Now, it's also going to be helpful for converting leads. You can put these videos into automations that trigger when a new lead comes in, all kinds of good stuff. And ultimately, though, you will gain respect, right? More of your customers are going to be more impressed by you, especially if you start doing this in the shorter term, because nobody else will be, or at least none of your competition will be, right? The longer you wait, the more this is going to become a regular expected part of working with a small business, right? But it's not there yet. So you can wow people and really cut through the noise and show that you're an innovator in your market, right? All right, I'm not going to spend more than maybe 1 minute on this slide because I do know we want to get to the end and have a chance to answer some questions. Here's the thing. When you're trying to be compelling on camera, practice, but do it, right? I mean, just rehearse the videos before you record them, especially when you're getting to this higher level stuff. Start and end with a smile, harder to do than you might think, right? So something that's worth practicing and going back and rewatching. Did I actually end with a smile at the end of that video, right? I've learned how to basically smile while talking. It's not normal. It's very weird, right? But it comes through really well on video, especially in certain circumstances. Obviously, you don't have to smile the whole time. And then the last thing I'll mention here is I'm just going to give you an exercise to try, right? Come up with a script. It could be one sentence, right? I'm the best real estate agent in town, like 7 words, right? Say that into a camera, then record it a second time and try to double your enthusiasm. Try to be as ridiculous and over the top as you can. Then do it one more time and try to do it double from there, right? This should be like your best Billy Mays infomercial that you can possibly do, right? Total energy. And then watch all 3 and see which one you like the most, right? You will probably be surprised that it's very likely to be number 3. You're going to feel like you are being absolutely outrageous. And you're going to watch and go, you know what? I seem pretty friendly and kind of inviting there. I'm going to start doing that in my videos. Okay. The camera does cut down on enthusiasm. And that's the best way to practice, right? Is to do that little exercise. All right. I'm going to check the chat again real quick. While I'm doing that, I do want to just kind of put this up here on the screen for just a second. We do offer a free mini course from Business Video School. Obviously, in these presentations, I can only cover so much. So what we did is basically there's 14 days worth of 1 to 3 minute videos, right? They're very short. These are very sort of bite-sized lessons. In fact, we call them video lessons. They run the spectrum. So it's things like how to go live, what to talk about in your videos, what equipment you might want to consider getting, which is not much, by the way, right? And a bunch of other good stuff. So here's how you do this. If you do want to get access to this mini course, just open up the camera on your phone. You go to the photo setting and you hold your phone up until it scans that QR code. And then you click on the URL that will pop up on your screen. Pretty easy to do, all right? So that'll take you to the mini course and you can get yourself signed up to receive that. It'll come out over the next 14 days. You'll get a bunch of just sort of simple tips and tricks. You don't have to watch them immediately. So if you want to let them all save up, go back and watch it at the end. That's totally fine. So answering the question here, do you have any recommendations on websites that you can find video editing people? Yeah, Fiverr is a great option for sure. The other option is, if you want to stay local, is reach out to your local colleges. There are lots of college kids that would be very happy to edit your videos for very affordable rates. You will have to manage them. That's the trade-off, though, is when you pay more money and you get a professional, you probably don't have to manage them as much. You hire a college kid, you are going to have to stay on top of them, but it will be very affordable, right? So that's another option for you if you want to save a few bucks. All right. Closing stretches here, right? We're going to go into strategy number 3, which is still not TikTok, okay? We will get there, I promise, but we are not there yet. And here's the thing. Before I get out there on social media and I start trying to get in front of new people, I want to make sure I'm optimized to capture those people and turn them into customers, right? This is the thing a lot of small businesses just sort of never do. I didn't do this at first. When I first started marketing, I thought the idea behind marketing was that the more people that heard about me at least one time, the more business I'll get, right? Well, what I know about marketing now is, yes, I want lots of people to hear about me, but once they've heard about me, the most important thing is I continue to stay in front of them, right? So that they can get to know me, so they can become an actual customer. If they hear about me once in passing and never again, they're not going to remember me, right? That's what a funnel does. So what we do here is we create initially just 3 videos. You can always add more later. I do recommend working with a videographer in this case, because these will be videos you can use for years, and they will be videos that will be seen by quite a few people, right? However, at this point, we have the experience. You're going to feel confident on camera. You're going to be creative. You're going to have some fun ideas for these videos you've probably been thinking about at that point for months, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to make one at the awareness stage, one for consideration, and one for conversion. At awareness, I recommend community videos. Get out there and highlight your favorite local coffee shop, your favorite restaurant, your favorite park, interview the local principal of the school, whatever it is, right? But stay community focused, because that's going to teach the algorithm to show this to people who live in the area where you can actually do business, right? Then consideration. This is where you start to tell them a little bit about your business. So you can show testimonials, you can have brand videos, case studies, free offers, right? That's where this stuff starts to kick in. This is where you should start giving them an opportunity to realize that you're the agent for them, right? And then the final one is conversion. And this one I would keep simple. This is a short invitation to an event, an invitation to a webinar, an invitation to schedule a meeting to talk about selling their house, whatever it is, but you're giving them an opportunity to opt in. That's the idea on the conversion step, right? So what you do with those 3 videos then is you put these out there as ads, you show them in that order, or you have a lead gen source that puts them into your CRM, and then you send 3 emails in a row that show them those 3 videos, however you want to go about doing it, right? But you're going to make sure that they get to people in that order, and it's going to be automated. That's the key, is that if we set this up correctly, this happens automatically, right? So if we do this in this order, here's where we're at now. Now we have a funnel. That funnel is attracting people automatically into our business. When they hit our business, they start receiving video communication. They get our FAQs, they get my video messages, right? Throughout the transaction, they continue to get bombarded with video. You can see how this step, if we've done all 3 of these things already, we have a very predictable business generation machine, right? Everything in our business is structured. It's full of video. We're giving people a wow type experience, and we're attracting more customers and more referrals than ever. So let me ask you this. Why do you need to go and dance on TikTok anymore? Right? You don't need social media. And that's the thing that's kind of mind-blowing for most people, is to realize, hey, there are so many other versions of video that you're not doing yet that are not social media, that it might be years before you really need to implement video, right? Or social media, sorry, not video in general. And so here's the thing. Where are the agents that are currently making video competing the most right now? They're competing on social media, right? So if you do all these other things, you're avoiding that direct competition while also building a structured business that is probably a lot more effective and a lot more efficient than even the agents that are out there dancing on TikTok, right? Now, I have a lot of agent friends that dance on TikTok. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. I'm just saying a lot of people get to it way too early, all right? So where does that leave us? Well, if he's crapping on TikTok so much, he probably can't tell us to go do TikTok. Well, that is strategy number 4. Strategy number 4 is social media video, right? But the key here is that we're not getting here right away. We're getting here once we are very, very comfortable and confident on camera, right? So if this is the destination destination, not the beginning, and we're working our way up to it, it's going to feel very natural. It's going to feel very much like a natural next step in that progression, right? And now when I get out there in front of all these strangers and I'm performing, because this is very much a performance, right? Social media, you're performing for people. You're entertaining or educating or doing something that's getting them to pay attention to you, right? Well, now I'm at a point where that stuff is already very easy for me, right? So that's the idea behind this. Now, what I will say is we could talk for days about social media, right? Here's the one thing I want you to remember. When you get here, keep it simple, but in particular, focus on your community. I know I said that on the last step, but this is really important here, probably more important here, right? Because at this point, you are dependent on the algorithm. This is something that bothers me a lot. You have a lot of influencers out there and they are giving real estate agents advice on how to do this stuff. Now, it's not all bad advice. In fact, a lot of it's very good, but they are talking about their own experience and their audiences are national or even international in scope. You don't need an audience like that. You need a hyper local audience, right? So as you start to do these things, start with the simple forms of video, which is stories or things like TikTok and Reels, but do simple versions of them and focus on your community, right? Here's a 5-second story I did where I was in a local, literally this is it, me holding up this little antique vase. Glad I didn't drop it. And then just panning over and showing a few other items, right? There's literally nothing to that. I mean, it took 10 seconds to shoot and post. It was a joke, right? But some people recognize that antique store, right? Because it's in our community and they reached out about it. Oh yeah, I love antiquing. Or I was just there the other day, right? I can't make up the impact this stuff has. It's so crazy. This here, we were at what's called Italian Fest. It's over in Edwardsville, Illinois, right? Another part of our community. And again, same sort of impact. What you're going for, this is the thing I didn't understand when I first got into this. I actually want people to see things they already know about. When I started in marketing, I thought, I want to always show new people new stuff, right? I want to spark their curiosity. No, I want to, yes, I'm sparking their curiosity, but I'm doing it by showing them things they recognize because that gets them to go, wait a second. Is that local shop down the street from me? Or, hey, wait a second, I recognize this restaurant. I just ate there last week. Now they have something in common with me, right? That's how we build relationships. So start simple and focus on your community, not the big picture stuff, right? Don't take the influencers' advice and just ride the national trends or you're going to build a national following, right? You want to have a local following. All right. So I'm going to check the chat here and answer some questions. This sums it all up, right? The 4 in an order, just to recap again, is 1-to-1 video, then video efficiency, then build your marketing funnel, and then finally you can get out there on social media. All right. I do want to leave some, so I do have a few. Yeah, we got some time for questions here. So I'm gonna check the chat first. I know we had the one about TikTok and YouTube that we'll come back to. And then once I'm done with these, if you have any questions, beyond that, we can unmute and have a face-to-face chat. So all right, let's see here. Go to your senior community centers and highlight classes they have coming up. Perfect. Love it. Perfect idea. And if you can get the senior center to also share that video for you, there you go, right? They're going to pick up some customers directly for you in a lot of cases. Have you helped agents that are 100% focused on serving seniors? Yes. I mean, we've helped agents to do. I mean, I've literally worked at this point with thousands of real estate agents, right? And the one thing I will tell you is that I prefer by far to work with agents that have actually nailed down a niche, that actually know I want to work with a certain group of people because it is 100 times easier, right? If you know who you're trying to work with, we talk about this all the time in the schools, having a customer avatar, having a detailed profile of your ideal customer. That tells you what to talk about in your videos, right? I mean, this is a perfect example from Heather. I'm just sort of throwing ideas out there and she's got a perfectly customized idea for the audience you're trying to attract, right? So it's much easier when somebody says, hey, I want to work with, first-time buyers. I want to work with parents with young children. I want to, obviously there's only certain kinds of categories that are legal to be focused on, right? But that is always very, very helpful because it tells you ahead of time what to talk about. It tells you what those people's pain points are, right? You know the kinds of things that they're struggling with. If I put a video about taking care of young kids in front of seniors, unless they have young grandchildren, that's not necessarily going to resonate with them, right? So I got to make sure I'm focusing on the categories that audience cares about. And that sort of specificity is very helpful, right? All right, so let's see, I have a TV show and monthly seminars, but still need to create a funnel. What kind of investment involved? Do you have some samples I can see? Yeah, so if you're going to hire a videographer, you're going to please show last screen. Catherine, you may need to tell me which screen that was, because I'm not sure exactly what was up when I put this up, but I'll skip back a couple slides.
There you go.
Here, I'll put it on this one. You tell me if it's wrong.
Yes, that's good.
Okay, great. But yeah, in terms of cost there, hiring a local videographer, our production company, which really just works with people in St. Louis, we would charge, between $500 and probably $1,000 per video. Just sort of depending on what it is that somebody wanted to do. Now you can easily spend $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 on a video, right? What I do recommend though is try to find companies that work with agents, or that work with small businesses, because what we do in our company is we focus on efficiency. So the videos we get them done quickly. The editing isn't too complicated, and that keeps our costs down. A lot of video production companies actually want to drive the price up. They want to do the more complicated projects that take longer. So just ask those kind of questions. How many businesses do you work with? What's your average price range? And especially if you work with somebody that specializes in working with agents, you should be able to get something in that sort of, a few $100 to a couple thousand range. That is also based on local cost of living. St. Louis is a more affordable market, so our costs, our pricing can be a little bit lower because of that. All right, let's see. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm reading these to see if they're questions or just comments. So if I stop talking for a second, that's why here. All right.
What type of funnel do you build? Is that a landing page?
My favorite way to do this would be to actually create a video ad funnel. So the idea there, because this is getting a little more advanced, but video doesn't drive action directly as well as like static text or pictures. So what I mean by that is when I see a video ad, if I sit there and I watch that video ad, that's the action my brain is taking. I'm choosing to invest my time in watching the video, which means I'm less likely in that moment to click on a link to then go take an action, right? So what I recommend is it would be this. I would show all 3 videos in order, and you can use video retargeting to do that, right? So what I basically do is I say, show this audience the first video. Then I say, show people who saw the first video, the second video. And then I say, show people who saw the second video, the third video. That's how I set up my ads. And then I retarget the people who saw the third video with a static image ad, which is mostly text, which says something like, don't forget to sign up for my event or something like that, right? So even if that's what I said in the third video, I'm going to retarget those people with something a little bit more direct. Because that second reminder is when they're probably going to go, oh yeah, I watched that video. I wanted to go to that seminar. I just hadn't signed up yet. They click it, they sign up, and then they're converted, right? So that's sort of a basic version of what I would suggest.
And then are you doing that on, let's say like Facebook, or are you doing like the geo tracking?
Yeah, I would do Facebook. I would do, if you have the capacity, you can do both Facebook and Instagram sort of together. So I'll probably start there. It's not cheap, it's you can do it for just a few bucks a day, but Facebook ad costs have increased over the years. TikTok isn't advanced enough to do quite that approach, but it will get there probably in another 6 months to a year. And then you could also do that on YouTube pretty easily. So I would start with Facebook and Instagram, then I would consider doing it on YouTube as well. All right, so we have a question about the teleprompter app. It looks like Heather did answer it, though. It is Big View, and it's just BIGVU. So if you're looking for that one. And then last, let's see. If an agent is doing their editing, which program app would you use? So there's a lot of directions you can go there. What I would recommend is start simple, right? So I'm going to give you 2 apps that you can look into. One is phone, one's computer. On the phone, there's an app called CapCut, CapCut. It's actually designed, it's built by TikTok. So it's TikTok, but it's a separate editing app. So you can use it to edit any kind of video you want. It's very robust and also not that complicated to use. But there's a lot of sort of bells and whistles in there. So it does take a little bit to learn. And then on the computer, the one I would start with is a cloud-based editor. I do believe there's a free version, and it's called Kapwing, Kapwing. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and type those both in the chat in case that didn't come through for any of you. It's Kapwing and CapCut. All right. I would start there, and then obviously you can get more complicated. So if you want to work your way up to using sort of like, Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut or something like that, you can. But I guess, the way I see this stuff is you want to start with the simpler tools first. And you may never need the more complicated ones, right? If you get to a certain level, you might start to decide, hey, if I want to do more advanced stuff, I'm probably just going to outsource it to somebody, right? And that kind of makes it that much easier for you. Yeah, Donald is sharing the links in the chat there as well. So thank you, Donald, for doing that. All right, cool. So I think I answered all the questions in the chat. I think we're about at our time. Oh yeah, it's exactly 7 locally. I think it's 8 for all of you. Or well, it could be different time zones depending on where you are, right? Any other questions I can answer for you before we hop off of here?
Nick, I have to personally thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight and
Of course.
teaching us so much. I love your your little nuggets that you gave us tonight, and I hope to have you back.
Good. Yeah. Happy to do it. So yeah, let me know what you would want to talk about next time and we can get something set up for
You
sure.
got it. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the Seniors Network, we appreciate you joining us, and everybody alike. We will see you next time. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.